People been asking for this one, a review of the ASICS METASPEED RAY. Pick these up with my own Earth credits to bring you this review. Are they as good as everybody says? A worthy competitor to the Fast R3? Let's find out. Thanks for tuning in, people. It's always appreciated. If you're one of those people that have yet to do so, please hit that subscribe button so you're notified on all the new content dropping on the channel. Give this video a thumbs up, like too, and drop us a comment for the algorithm. Dankeschön. In hand, the ASICS METASPEED RAY. Nobody sent me this shoe for review. Picked it up at retail for 265 Earth credits. Ow! Quite incredible weight on this one. A US 12 or UK 11. Weighing 153 grams or 5.4 ounces. I think the sample size weight for this shoe is about 129 grams, 4.5 ounces. It is amazingly light in hand. Just to put that into perspective, the Alphafly 3 in my size, about 250 grams. Metaspeed Sky Tokyo from ASICS is about 192, and the Fast R3 from Puma about 212 grams. So this one comes in significantly lower. I'm recording about 43 millimeters in the heel of my pair and about 35 millimeters up front, making for an 8mm drop. Again, the sample size measurements for that are 40 in the heel and 32 up front. Width-wise, similar to the Metaspeed Sky Tokyo, a little bit narrower in the forefoot. Very similar, in fact, narrowness in the heel. The midsole unit here is completely made of flight foam Leap, though I'm not actually sure it's the same stuff as we've got in some of the other ASICS shoes that contain that foam. I'm getting a softness score here of about 16. So it's not quite as soft as the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. That softness may mean that it's not the shoe for everybody. I think this is one that's either going to work for you or it's not. It's basically a huge marshmallow. Outsole extremely minimal here. There's only about a millimeter of rubber here. In terms of the depth, it is very, very thin in terms of the spread. The rubber is only in the absolute must-have places. We'll kick off the review with the upper first. The upper here is the new ASICS Matrix design, which by the looks of it appears to be extremely thin, almost paper-like. So I would suggest if you pick up a pair of these, do up the upper with some real care. Don't be too overzealous with your sort of lace tension. Kind of similar, I guess, to the upper that we found on the Puma Fast R3. It's very flexible. The tongue is super thin as well. There's no padding on it whatsoever. It's just like a piece of felt out of my wife's sewing basket. And there's next to no reinforcement here in the heel. It's super floppy. Very minimal padding around the back of the heel, although it does seem to be reasonably durable. I do like the fact ASICS have included those serrated laces. They are a real game changer in any running shoe. I think if you're a fan of the Metaspeed Sky series over the last few years, then you'll get on okay with this upper. I would suggest it's actually quite a generous upper, as you can see by the images on screen right now. Quite a bit of bunching there for my slightly narrow feet. I wouldn't suggest you go down a half size or anything though. They're absolutely true to size. One viewer did mention that it looked like my foot was right up against the end of the shoe. I did have red socks on and the front section of the inner part of the shoe is red, so it wasn't the case. They are true to size. I kind of think of the upper here on the Metaspeed Ray as a Formula 1 car, and like the Alphafly 3 is kind of like a Mercedes estate car, the latter being much more comfortable for the masses on a longer journey. So you can see what analogy I'm going for there. I don't think that this material is intended for daily use whatsoever. It is a race shoe, or perhaps your absolute premium training session where there are no thorns or anything that's gonna scrape against the upper. You know, some people get upset with shoes not lasting beyond like 1,000 kilometers. I don't think you're going to get that out of this shoe. I think this one's going to be okay for racing and light training, not to be used on a daily basis. But in terms of the upper, it's comfortable enough for me. It works. It's not that much of a departure from the Metaspeed Sky or Edge, and to be honest with you, if you're going to remove stuff from an upper and try and make it as light as possible, well, that's exactly what they've done here. I didn't really find that the tongue moved around. It didn't sort of bunch up or anything. I just wish there was a little bit less of the upper on the medial and lateral areas. I'll give it a 2.9 out of 3. after my initial tests. Midsole, midsole.
Midsole now.
Now, this Flight Foam Leap stuff is very, very odd. Yes, it is very soft. It has some serious squash here, but it is in no way stable by any account. If you're a heel striker predominantly, I think this shoe probably isn't going to work all that well for you. The fact that the METASPEED RAY has only a plate which extends from the kind of midfoot through to the forefoot area. There's nothing here in the rear of the shoe. If you are predominantly landing there, it's kind of quite a jarring experience actually, because it's just so soft. You'll kind of sink into it and it doesn't make for a smooth kind of progression through from the back of the shoe to the front. So as long as you're making sure those landings are on the midfoot to forefoot or on the forefoot, I think you'll get the most out of the shoe. There's a lot of energy return here. Certainly the foam is very sort of energized and exciting to run on, but it will very much depend as to the sort of runner you are and where you are in your running journey. Anything other than sort of your top speeds in this shoe just feel a bit odd really. So quite a niche option really. I think if you're sort of hitting those top paces within your racing and you've got some really strong form, I think it could work very well for you. But on the other hand, there's loads of other shoes out there which are perhaps a better option for the masses if you want something that's a little bit more consistent underfoot across a longer distance. What did you expect from this shoe though? It's the bare essentials. There's a very short plate here, super soft foam, very minimal torsional rigidity to it, but I found it quite forgiving, I've got to be honest, across sort of tempo pace for me, roundabout marathon pace. It did feel good. Whether I could withstand 26.2 miles of it, I'm not entirely sure. The Endorphin Elite 2 with a full plate is very forgiving, and that bit's softer actually. So I think that shoe could be better for people if you're heel striking. It's just a little bit more consistent and a bit more predictable. So much more flex to this shoe than the METASPEED Sky Tokyo or the Edge Tokyo. You don't have that overt rigidity here. It's only in a very particular place. And if you want a shoe that isn't really a rocker type shoe where engaging the back of the shoe and falling into the front, then the METASPEED RAY could be right up your street. If you've got some significant knee raise and then you're landing on the midfoot, no doubt I think the softness here is going to be welcomed. I think if you want significant cushion on impact, then this could be smashing in a good way, but for many folks I think they'll just find this one too inconsistent and unstable. At faster paces, the midsole really does shine. How long can you hold on to that sort of form though? I think a full send at 5k pace would be quite fun to try in this shoe, as long as I was on some quite consistent kind of terrain. Now, a big part of this shoe that few people have talked about is the fact that the midsole's kind of made up of two sections really. There's no insole here. The top layer where your foot sits upon can actually be removed. My pair, I could just actually lift it out. The glue hadn't really sort of cured properly, or maybe it's supposed to be like that, I don't know. It's kind of like a foam insert. It does remind me of the Cloud Boom Strike from On. You can see where that plate is sat at the sort of mid to front section of the shoe. It's kind of like the bottom section of it. It's almost like a cup sole and the top section sits within it. So that's the secret as to why they've managed to get it so soft, because they've removed the insole effectively. It just isn't there. Just made the shoe a little bit lighter. This foam, it's very soft. It creases. I've had to pick numerous bits of rock and little thorns and things out of there. It does start to break down very quickly. It's certainly a fun and very wild ride, and not many shoes have been that recently, in fairness, in terms of the midsole. So far though, in my testing, I think I'd probably give it a 2.8 out of 3. It's going to be great for racing, but probably only for racing. So the outsole here reminds me of a thin piece of toast, a servant scraping of butter. No raspberry conserve here, guys. It's the bare minimum that you can absolutely get away with here. ASICS have minimised it even more from their other METASPEED shoes. ASICS have really limited down that rubber. You do have this exposed section of the midsole that's taken a bit of a pounding already. That sort of toe-off area, it really does seem to get gnarled up pretty quick. Foam's going to rip here. In terms of road racing in the UK, there's debris and all sorts all over the roads. They're not the greatest. If you get the option to run on some really nice, smooth tarmac or something, wonderful, but you're going to get stones and screws and all sorts of stuff in here. But you got to take the rough with the smooth, no pun intended here. You know, you got to chance it really. You either live with it with this type of shoe or you don't. Traction's good though. I haven't had the chance to try it in very wet weather yet. It's just sort of mild again now. It's changed a little bit. Though I've got to be honest, I'm not sure this is the shoe that I would select if I'm running in some very cold weather, mainly down to the upper, and you know, there's not an awful lot of rubber here, which is bizarre really. It makes the METASPEED Sky and the Edge seem almost more robust, I suppose. Though, for a race shoe that's very light, it hits the spot. I'll give it a 2.8 out of 3 for the outsole so far. Value-wise, well, this one's only £265. That's a lot of money. Although it's not a lot of money when you pitch it up against the Pro Evo 1 or 2. Those Adidas shoes seem astronomically expensive compared to this, which is only, what, 25 quid more than the METASPEED Sky Tokyo. I don't, though, see this shoe lasting as long as those two shoes. They're at least built to give a little bit more longevity and durability. I think if you babied this one a little bit and only used it on very specific terrain, you might get some more out of it. Gotta remember, every shoe is just some rubber, foam and plastic, isn't it, mashed together. Certainly fun and light, and it's built pretty well out the box as well. If you're one of these people that worries about creasing and things, that's gonna happen, okay? Again, if you want surface area and sort of usability really, I think the Alphafly 3 might be a better bet. This is very much the opposite end of the spectrum though. A slender, more precise option, kind of feels a bit like a lightsaber compared to a blaster, but at 265 Earth credits, it might be at least one that people are prepared to gamble on a little bit for those particular maniacs out there that really want the softest there is available and the lightest. Then it's probably the best in its category. I'll give it a 2.8 out of 3 for value, as there are more expensive options that are nowhere near as fun to run in. Final scores on the doors for the METASPEED Ray from ASICS. Is this one you've picked up? Have you raced in it? Have you run in it? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on these mega light shoes down in the comments. Quick musical interlude for you. Big favourite of my son is the theme tune to Escape to Victory. Remember that classic football film from the 80s? I love the music in this one. It's got so many really key little movements in it, wonderfully memorable sections when it comes to sort of orchestral big band stuff. It doesn't get any better than Escape to Victory. I particularly love the part where Pelé scores the overhead kick goal. Everything just stops for a moment and the music's almost in slow motion. Such a wonderful little moment. I mean, how many other times do you get to see Michael Caine and Russell Osman in the same film? Come on, go and check it out if you've never seen it before. Escape to Victory, absolutely wonderful film. Hope you enjoyed today's review. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, like, and drop us a comment for the algorithm. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you